here. Now, I wanted to get into this element with. Recently, there's been a lot of flat Earth stuff, a lot of QAnon stuff, a lot of Trump stuff, and I was just like, if I were a ruthless criminal, sociopathic scumbag that knew psychology and knew how to manipulate, knew how to co-opt and destroy genuine movements, and have been doing so for centuries, those are the things that I would create. You know?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
the kind of thing. You watch the entire truth movement just essentially implode into infighting like that. I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like it.
And psyops like this are just put out to create that infighting, and they're also put out to disinfo and discredit legitimate research into the fields of, the control, the areas of control, conspiracy, mind control, the occult, etc. They want people to associate that type of study with the, baseless, conjecture that a lot of people are putting forward with certain conspiracy theories, instead of looking at actual conspiracy fact and fact of how the control system really does work in our lives. They're inventing these psyops to try to have legitimate researchers sprinkle all of that in with legitimate topics of discussion and truth, and in doing so discredit those legitimate areas of research, those avenues of research that people should understand. So when people are hearing things like, well, you really have to be concerned about the types of damage vaccines can do to young children, and how vaccine damage and autism are completely on the rise, and these are totally causally connected, and then you'll hear people say, oh, you believe that? What are you, a flat earther too? Because that's how this psyop works. It's a guilt by association psyop. They want people to latch on to that poison pill, and believe it, and then make that a big part of their lives, so that they won't be taken seriously as a researcher in other legitimate areas. It's very insidious.
Well, and if you do believe in these things, don't feel insulted or anything like that, because if you hadn't had perhaps the experience that I'd had or Mark had had with exactly these type of things coming up again and again, year after year, bit by bit, it's always a different thing or whatever. This narcissist trauma counselor once said something like this: when a patient comes into my office and they tell me a whole bunch of things about their abuse that they've suffered at the hands of their narcissistic partner, I can sort of read a trail sort of thing, and I can predict and be completely unsurprised by all of these things that these people are saying, because after a while you get an instinct. You become kind of like a hunter for truth, and all these red flags start coming up, and you're like, okay, no, there's something very, very fishy here. I'm not going to jump on this bandwagon. And, I don't. And as a direct result, I don't get the big deals. I don't get the big money and all of that kind of stuff. And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's called selling out for a reason. All right? Because when you're selling something, you get what in return? Money. Okay? Right here, we're not selling you anything. We're just giving it to you. Free samples, free samples of truth. Here you go. Swallow them. They're quite bitter.
If that worthless fiat paper that is worth less than the paper it's printed on, if that's your system of value, if that is what you live your life to acquire, it's like, and you would sell out the truth and the community of people who really want genuine freedom to just accumulate more of that worthless nonsense. What does that say about that person as a human being, about what their real internal value system in their own mind and heart are? It's like the lowest of the low, and too many people fall for that bait. That's why I've challenged. People really want to believe in flat Earth and try to research it as a legitimate, a pursuit of knowledge. Demonetize all of your YouTube channel. All of your YouTube channels dedicated to the topic, because it's such a push button issue and a clickbait topic. Then let's see how serious you are about it. Make what you're doing, and do that just on what people are willing to contribute to that effort, because of how much real value it brings to their life. I've never monetized my YouTube channel. I've never put any paid advertisements on my website. I work solely through donations, and that's been able to sustain what I do and keep me moving forward. I challenge the flat earth community to do that. I have for a long time, and that's why I get a lot of flack from them still. And as you said, Max Igan is being outright digitally harassed by them. I've encountered similar things just because I say that it's not true in reality, in point of fact. And I have looked into it overwhelmingly for a long time, because I don't take anything lightly. I look into things that are, and if I find that my former viewpoint is proven wrong, legitimately through legitimate methods, and I can say yes unequivocally that is what is really going on, then I will no longer hold on to my previous worldview. I am not rigid in that sense. If new information is encountered and it proves what I previously thought wrong, I will change my take on something. That is not the case when it comes to the whole flat Earth so-called research. It is very many piled up misconceptions of how real dynamics of motion work and real geometry works, etc., and real cosmology works, unfortunately. And it's a sad thing to me. I don't want the harassment is what makes me not like the way these people operate. We could have a discussion without having to harass each other.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make me behave like a caged animal, and you won't like that result. So I don't like their tactics and behavior personally. Telling me what I must think and do. I've looked at it more. Just not to even belabor this topic, but I've looked at it more than I'm even comfortable saying publicly. I'm almost embarrassed by how much I've looked into it, and no part of it stands upon any other part. Every single solitary aspect of the model falls completely apart when it's subjected to any rigorous investigation from a true scientific point of view, as far as I'm concerned. So people who say I haven't looked into it, you don't know what you're talking about. I've probably looked into it more than you have.
Now we have another super chat in from Big Chungus. Government is slavery. Great work, guys. Keep spreading love and truth. My question, can you please hit a dab on all those haters in the live chat? And I have. Well, see, that was the thing as well, because, while we're talking about this topic, you got people kind of going ballistic in the chat room, and they're illustrating exactly what we're saying, is that Sure. If you've got a truth that people aren't willing to accept, aren't willing to look at the evidence and things like that, it does very little good to call them names and attack them and harass them and so on and so forth. If anything, you're just going to make an enemy out of them. Now, the thing is, if you're a narcissist, a sadist, or a psychopath, that's what you want. You want attention. Negative, positive, doesn't matter, as long as it's attention. And so, ladies and gentlemen, go to Psychology Today and Google trolling, all right? And you'll come up with this article that says trolls are narcissists, sadists, and psychopaths, right? And you go into this realization, okay, it reminded me of something Christopher Bolin said on the interview, and I asked him, how do you tell somebody who's a 9/11 shill, like somebody who's spreading full-on disinfo? And he says, well, they don't try to spread info. What they try to do is discredit and attack people who are.
That's right.
And I was like,
right.
Whoa.
And that's why, for a moment, I would just like to say to my friend Max Igan, Max, don't let these trolls get you down, man. Kick them back under the bridge and just keep moving forward. You're too important to this whole community and movement to let them get to you. They were getting to me for a little while, and I kind of blew up on the net about it, and kind of like that was like a cathartic experience. I really needed to get it off my chest, because you have no idea how much digital harassment I went through about this topic, and that's not going to convert anybody to their side. Like, I don't email bomb people. I don't, send people nasty emails talking about what's going on with human rights or police or anything like that. I put it out on the air in my original content that I create. I put it out over the airwaves videos, and I hope to reach people's eyes and ears and reach their minds and heart. Just stick with doing it that way. You don't need to target any people and try to make their lives miserable. You're not winning any points. You're certainly not winning any converts to your skewed worldview. So if you that's what you think, put videos out. You're free to do that. That's what you can use your talent and create content to do if you so choose. That's your freedom and right to do so. Just don't tell other people what they must subscribe to because you've come to the conclusion that you've come to. There is a truth about it, just like there is a truth about human freedom and rights, etc. In this instance, not everybody necessarily must agree because human freedom and slavery are not what is on the line. That's not, what is going to happen, whether the earth is round, flat, cubical, rhomboidal, a Mobius strip or whatever other shape you can envision. Okay. However, when it does come to human rights and freedom, if we don't understand that the truth of that, we're going to be going down a very, very seriously negative path that leads to slavery and ultimately to extinction. The shape of any given place is not going to have those repercussions and is not going to have those consequences. Regardless of what the shape of our place that we are living in and or on, there is still slavery taking place on it, and that is infinitely more important than its shape.
I'm thinking about that as well, like how many more important things are. But then again, and I'm just playing devil's advocate there, that's exactly what everybody says. Oh, that's not important to talk about vaccines, talk about climate change or any stuff like that. And then you look into it and you go, okay, well, let's say that the methodology of disinformation is to give people 90% truth so that they'll believe the 10% of lies you're selling, which manipulate and distort the actual message of the truth. So I think somebody had me on their show one time and they go, so Vinny, just give us your opinion here. Is the earth flat or is it round? And I go, it's neither. It's a holographic fractal representation of collective consciousness co-creating itself. All right?
How could it be anything else?
It can't. That was my point. It's like it's the only thing that answers all the questions we have. Oh, it's a holographic fractal representation of collective consciousness co-creating itself. Of course, it's the only thing that really makes sense to me at this point.
That's what the whole universe is.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we've got another question in here. Vinny, what do you think about using cannabis hemp as our main resource when everyone decides to come together